Um, okay, so let me repeat that real quick. So I just deleted the app, right? And once I deleted the app, I went over to my app store, re-downloaded the app, just typed in TouchPix, and it's now I have it on my phone. And what I said is just I want everybody to get really familiar with your devices. The recommended device that we use for TouchPix, if you're using an iPhone to record, we recommend you use an iPhone 11, 12, or 13. Doesn't matter what submodel. Every series in that model, like the Pro or Pro Max or the basic model, they all have the same rear camera. So make sure if you have an iPhone 11, 12, or 13, you can definitely record with that device, and you'll get the best optimal recording based on the rear camera of that device. That rear camera has an ultra wide lens. You're able to record 120 frames per second, and it's ideal for recording slow motion. If you have an iPad, you can still record with an iPad. There's only actually, I think, 1 or 2 models of the iPad that I would even consider recording with, but honestly, I wouldn't put a huge iPad, specifically those iPads, because they run about $1,000. Those specific iPads have the same specs as your iPhone. Not all iPads are equal. Not all iPads have the same specification. So if you're going to use an iPad, I recommend probably looking into the GoPro. But if you're just strapped for cash and you want to start off and you just want to get yourself out there, you can definitely use any iPad. It just, as long as you understand that the quality is going to differ from those that are using iPhones or GoPros or DSLRs, because those are the recommended devices that we use. So once you're on your iOS device, you're going to look for this settings icon here. You're going to tap on that settings icon, and a couple of things that you need to be familiar with is make sure that your Wi-Fi is on, make sure Bluetooth is on. With your Wi-Fi, it's just very important that it's toggled to the on position. You don't necessarily need to have it connected unless you're going to be sharing actively, but it needs to be on based on the fact that it communicates with a sharing station if you're going to add a secondary device later. Like I said, it just needs to be onto the on position. Bluetooth needs to be onto the on position. They don't necessarily need to be connected to anything for your devices to communicate that way. And I will show you an example of what that looks like as well today too. But once you hit settings, you're gonna hit this huge rectangle up here that has the name of your iPhone. And in this case, I named it my business name, right? What you're gonna do here is click on that big rectangle, and then you're going to be taken to this window here that gives you just more about your specific account. If you pay attention here, you're going to see that this email address is my Apple ID. It's associated to my Apple ID account. What does that mean? It means that Apple kind of forces you to create an account or provide an email where the payments are all going to be generated through one specific account, and you can start making purchases on apps from the App Store that's going to be associated to that Apple ID. If you want to look to see where your subscriptions are, you're going to look here. If there's a subscription button here, this is where you look to turn off or on your TouchPix subscription. If you buy the subscription for the week and you're not going to use it the following week, make sure you come in here where it says subscriptions, go through the list. If TouchPix comes out in that list, that's where you cancel it. By canceling it, you stop the reoccurring payments, right? If you forget to cancel it, you may be charged for another week, and you don't want to do that. My recommendation is once you buy TouchPix for a week, you get it for 7 days from the day that you purchased it, meaning that if I were to purchase it today, right now it's about 5:30 West Coast time. If I were to purchase it today, it would expire 7 days later at 5:30. So just be mindful of that. And what I would recommend you do is, if you're not going to use it the following week and you don't want to get charged again, turn off your subscription at least 2 or 3 days before it expires. It doesn't mean that you're going to be shorted any days. What that does, it just prevents from the reoccurring payment to kick in and charge you. Okay, hopefully that makes sense for a lot of you. I just wanted to let you know that this is kind of, this is a familiar screen for you, right? Settings, subscriptions, and where your Apple ID is. So now we're going to go back into the app, and we just downloaded the app. This is where we're at. Since I just downloaded a fresh copy of this app, it's going to ask you for permissions. It's very important that you allow the app the permissions. It wants to access Bluetooth. Hit OK. And now it's going to give you some options. So see how it works? It's basically a test version of the app. You're not able to text, email, or print off these test versions, but it gives a user an ability to test at home in the event that you're still unsure if you want to come over to use TouchPix. So TouchPix is also a photo booth software. That's why you see a photo booth features on it as well, but it's primarily being used currently as a 360 booth software. It's very easy to operate. Once you understand it, you should be up and running in no time. This webinar takes a little long because we go through the little intricate details to help you be successful and learn how to troubleshoot in the event that something goes wrong. I do want to say about 90% of some of the issues, or probably a little higher, comes down to user error. If you see, or if you're in our Facebook group, if you haven't joined our Facebook group, please join. It's the TouchPix user group. You'll see a lot of comments in there. Some people are more experienced than others. Some people are brand new in the same situation you guys are. And unfortunately, there are some people that just got the machine like yesterday, and now they're booked an event for Saturday, and they just are going out there and trying to make that event successful without any prior practice and stuff like that. We really don't recommend that because you're taking people's money, and people are paying you to provide a service specific on a celebratory day like a wedding or a Sweet 16. We just rather have you learn how to do it correctly. That way you don't ruin people's special events based on lack of practice or lack of know-how. Okay, so once you're in the screen, you're going to get a couple scenarios, and you can do a test if you want, or you can watch that YouTube video that sets it up your first event. Lastly, we're going to come down where it says subscriptions, and this is how our subscription packages work. You buy your subscriptions through the app. Remember, if you buy it through this app, it's going to tie it to that same Apple ID email address, right? So make sure if you are using an iPad or a separate device later, it also has the same Apple ID. If you don't want to use your personal Apple ID, I suggest you just create a business-related Apple ID, because if business goes well for you and you start expanding your business and now you're sending out attendance instead of you doing these events yourself, you don't want your attendants to have personal information that's located to your personal account, like pictures or maybe some credit card information. You want to keep that separate. But once you want to purchase the app, we have a couple of different packages. We do have a weekly package, which runs 7 days. That's $49.99. It gives you a week of our entire software. You could use it on unlimited number of events, meaning that if you have 2 or 3 devices, all 2, 3, or 4 or 5 devices that you have, they can all run at the same time, right? However, one event can run at a time on each device. You can't load up like 3 events at once and expect them all to load. They run one event at a time. For example, if you are booked for a 360 booth and you also book a photo booth, 2 separate devices, you can run them at the same time. If you have more than 2 devices, you can run them at the same time. So this is kind of the difference between our app and comparable apps that are out there in the App Store. If you've done your research, you've probably researched a couple of apps and see what's more cost effective for you, because at the end of the day, this needs to make sense for you and your business. There's other apps that start you at a lower price, probably around the $40 area. And you're going to see that if you start getting busy and you want to activate maybe your second event, they want a piece of your pie. So they charge you for every other event that you activate. So all of a sudden, just because you think you're saving maybe $5, $6, $7 on the front end by going with them, now once you get busy and you want to activate more events, you can't do that unless you pay them more money. We don't care about that. We just charge a flat fee. Our fees are covered in the following. You're paying $50 a month, but what do you get for $50? Well, you get to use our software for a full 7 days. You get text messaging and email included. You get what we call once you get comfort, your comfort level gets high, you can use our internet free sharing system. where we utilize the use of a router, and you can guarantee delivery of any of your files despite you having poor cell phone signal or no Wi-Fi at all. It's called ScanPix. It's built in with TouchPix. You get that. You also get the support, 7-day-a-week support. Right now we're doing a pilot of our 24-hour support line. But you do get 7-day-a-week support where you talk to a live person, and the live person will contact you to resolve your issue, right? In addition to that is you get, very hands-on attention within our TouchPix user group, in the sense that sometimes our developers jump in there and you have an engaging conversation with our developers. The other side to that is you get our how quickly we implement new updates and new features. There's apps out there on the market that, they update every quarter, they update every so often, but not as frequent as we do, because we're trying to always evolve with our app. We're trying to push it to the limits, and we're always coming out with new things that make it better, faster, and more efficient for you, the end user. So all of that is bundled into your subscription price, and that's why our base fee starts at $50 a week. If you use, if you have more than one booth, and you have a pretty a good way of securing bookings, and you're a little busy, then you may want to look at our monthly package here. It's $139. It has a little bit of cost savings. The only difference is now it's a monthly package instead of a weekly package. And of course, our yearly package is what we would recommend if you're established and this is really taking off for you. And these packages, you'll have more cost savings than going weekly, but we understand, sometimes people that are starting off, you need to start with the basics and go with the weekly. I do want to say this: never be out of pocket with this. This is something that you as a business owner should always implement a plan and start creating a business plan on how you're going to offset your costs, but these should never be out of pocket. These should be kind of incorporated with your rental fee. That way the cost is a non-issue moving forward. Okay, so that's where you buy your subscriptions, and then I'll kind of go over with how you activate an event. When you activate an event, I'm gonna click on this big bar that says activate event, and it's asking me if I want to activate a test, a sharing station, or an actual event. I'm gonna click activate event, and it's asking me for a camera permission because I just installed the app, and it's looking for a QR code, but there's no QR code because we haven't got there yet. But ultimately what it is the QR code is generated from the computer setup, and it transfers all of the information over to your phone on the app, and you're good to go. So that is the iPhone setup portion of this. I'm going to go into the web portion because there is two parts to this. So give me one quick second here, and I'm going to go into the web portion. So this is, I'm hoping you guys are able to see our website here. It's touchpix.com. This is our website. And let me minimize some windows here. That way I can pay closer attention. So this is TouchPix. This is our website. And this is kind of where you set up your events. We recommend that everybody sets up their event on some type of computer, right? It's just easier. It makes more sense to do it off a computer than trying to do it just off your phone. Doesn't matter if it's a Windows PC or if it's a Mac. You can do it with either or. We don't recommend you set it up on a tablet, or we don't recommend you do the setup on a like a Google Chromebook, right? Because the Google Chromebook is like an Android, kind of similar to a tablet. And the reason we stay away from those devices to teach this webinar is because it's a little difficult for you to look for your files, right? Windows and Mac, they have what's called a folder system. Like this is your folder, this is my desktop, and it's easier to get organized, right? So what I always tell in my classes, I always try to advise you to, if you're working off a PC or a Mac, just start a new folder on your desktop. And by starting a new folder, you're going to right click, go over to new folder, name that folder. I named it TouchPix Files. And in this folder, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and make this large. In this folder, what you can do is now start organizing your files, right? With TouchPix, you're going to need certain files. For example, you're going to need some logos. You might need some screens, maybe some overlays if you're doing photos. So this is what I'm going to show you real quick. I'm going to show you maybe this is a photo booth overlay. It's something that I've already created. We've already created, right? And this is another overlay for slow motion, right? They're just files that I have specifically stored in a specific folder. But like if these are related to a wedding that you're doing, you just want to organize them and know where you're going to put them, right? I also have some music files here that are royalty free, and I'll explain what royalty free means as I go through the webinar. But you're going to want all your artwork in one location. That way, when you're loading your files, you're not going through your downloads folder, you're not going through your email, you're not digging around your computer to see where you left those files. And I hope that makes sense for a lot of people. So what I'm going to do now is go back on to touchpix.com. So what you're going to do here is if you don't have an account, you're going to hit login, right? If you're brand new to TouchPix, you're going to register for an account. Register with your first and last name, and it's important for you to register with an Apple ID that you're going to use, right? So if you're going to start a brand new Apple ID on your devices, make sure you register with that Apple ID, because that's how we track your subscription. That's how the App Store tracks your subscriptions, right? To make sure it's you. Because once you buy a subscription from your device, that device is going to be able to activate any QR code. But if you have an iPad with a different Apple ID, you're not going to be able to scan that QR code because they're mismatching. And the app is going to say, wait a minute, this is on a different account. We can't activate it. So make sure you register with an Apple ID account that belongs to you or your business. And once you register, it's going to send you an email where you create your own password, and then we're going to log in. So we're going to log in. This is my information. Once you log in, you're going to be taken to the dashboard, and on the dashboard, this is where you create an event. If you look at these tabs up here, I'm going to go over these two here because I already went over pricing. And these two tabs here, one says create an event from a preset. I'm going to just go over that real quick. And where it says create event from a preset, I'm going to go ahead and select it. This is for users that are brand new or people that want to test the app a little bit. This preset is kind of meant for you to get up and go and set up an event with a 3-click process, right? You're going to answer whatever type of setup you're running, and it's going to set it up for you. The reason I don't like to go into detail with this specific preset is because it has TouchPix branding, it has TouchPix music, it has stuff that's already preloaded for you, so you can kind of go do an event. But if you're paying TouchPix money, why wouldn't you want to brand it with your own brand? Why wouldn't you want to use your own type of music and things of that nature? You can still change it off the preset, but in order for you to change it, now we're going to be working backwards and going into all the intricate setup process that you would normally do when you do create a custom event, right? This is the way I'm going to show you. Creating a custom event. And for people that say, look, I'm not computer savvy, right? I don't want to intimidate you because it's not hard. Once you get this far and you go create a custom event, you're going to understand that TouchPix is essentially a long form. You're telling TouchPix what to do. Once you fill out this form here, you're telling TouchPix how long you want to record, what template you want to record with, what effects you want to use, and how do you want to share your content. So we're going to start from the beginning, right? I'm going to go do, we're going to title this event, and I always recommend people to name the event something that they're going to, it's going to help them identify. This has nothing to do with anything that's going to come out on that specific event, right? So you're not, whatever you name it, it's not going to come out anywhere. It's just for you to know and stay organized on what you're naming that specific event. For example, there's times that I book maybe 2 or 3 different events. Maybe I got 2 different weddings that same day, and then I have a 316. I need help identifying which is what. So this is how I do it. I typically give it today's date. I go 6/29 of 22, and I'm just going to say it's called webinar today because It helps me know that this event was created on a webinar. Language is going to be English. Country is going to be USA. Unless you're outside the US, you're going to put whatever country you're located in. And it's important you focus on that because that affects text messaging. Okay. If you go down the list now, we're going to go into countdown. Typically a countdown for people that are familiar with photo booths, when you go inside any photo booth, and I want you to remember TouchPix is also a photo booth software. So that's why you're going to see some of these photo booth features. Once you go into a photo booth and you click start, it's going to do a 4-second countdown before it actually starts taking the picture, right? People get ready, people get props, and then it starts taking a picture after 4 seconds. Well, this is going to be a slow motion setup, so I don't want my countdown to be that long, so I can go ahead and do a 2-second countdown. So now when people go on top of the platform and you click start, remember it's going to go 2, 1, then it'll start recording, right? If you want it shorter, obviously put a number 1 to it, then it'll be a 1, and then it'll start recording. So for videos, I like my countdown short. I'm going to go ahead and click on this box and enable it. It's called beep sounds. Beep sounds just means whatever number of seconds you have here, you're going to hear an auditory beep. It doesn't matter if you leave it, if you check this on or off. Most times we're at venues where it's loud, there's a band or there's a DJ playing, you're not even going to hear your device. But that's what it's there for, it's to give you an auditory prompt. Mirror overlay preview, we're not going to check this box, we're going to leave it unchecked. This is a photo booth feature, so what this feature does is on the live view, everything that's on the live view is going to look like it's it's backwards, like if you're staring into a mirror. If you accidentally leave this on, don't worry about it. It does absolutely nothing on the output file. If you leave this on though, you're going to see your live view is probably going to look, if you have artwork, it's probably going to look backwards. So it doesn't affect the output file, but just know that if that happens, it's because you have this enabled. I'm going to leave this off. Okay. If I scroll down, it's going to ask you if you want to use a front camera or rear camera. No matter what device you use, we always recommend, for video at least, we always recommend the rear camera. The rear camera is just the more powerful camera. It's the higher resolution camera. So we are always going to say rear camera. But however, we understand that a lot of iPad booths that are out in the market, for photo booth reasons, for photos, they use the front cam, and that's okay too. So that's why it gives you an option to either use the front or the rear. We're doing video recording, so the rear camera is what's important to me. After that, we're going to go here where it says camera exposure menu, right? I leave this enabled because you're going to learn that now that you're in the 360 business, it's not only about the 360, it's not only about the software. Now there's layers to this, right? The next layer is understanding lighting and bringing appropriate lighting to your event. If you're new to the business, you probably don't have, great lighting, or you probably haven't purchased, you probably started with 1 or 2 stick lights, and you're going to see that some of your videos may require a little bit more lighting than what you have. So by enabling the enable camera exposure, you're going to have access to your camera exposure settings, where like any other camera, you can make it a little bit brighter, and that's going to help you a bit, right? You don't want to, put them in full swing, because that introduces like a grainy, it introduces grain if you leave it full blast, but it helps you a little bit with light compensation, okay? The QR app protection, leave this off. You do not need it. This is for an iPad booth, specifically for people who do drop-off iPad booths. There's a big market for people that, rent photo booths for parties, and people drop off iPad booths and leave and pick them up a couple hours later. The QR app protection just prevents from your guests on accessing the back end of the TouchPix settings. So if you accidentally leave this on, it's going to ask you to scan the original QR code anytime you want to make an adjustment to these settings, okay? So leave this off. So we are in the printing area. We don't require any printer for video, so make sure you drop it down to no printing. So now we're in the functions area, right? For the purpose of this tutorial, we're not interested in photos, we're not interested in boomerangs, GIFs, or videos. We're only interested in slow-mo. I often get a question as far as why not videos. People often confuse videos and slow-mo being the same thing. No, videos are different. The video function is meant for like a video confession booth where you have a booth maybe somewhere tucked away in a quiet corner where the guests can go and give their congratulatory feedback to the bride and groom and say, hey, thank you for inviting us to the wedding. And there's a nice overlay attached to that. And at the end of the event, you can compile a group of like 40 videos to give your bride and groom. That's an excellent upsell just for those that need some extra ideas on how to, get more money or earn more money. This is a great thing to explore. But for now, we're focused just on slow-mo 360 booths, right? And we're going to cover that. So this is slow-mo is the only thing that you need to leave checked off. And as we scroll down, we're going to look at the next phase where it says slow-mo recording time. Well, this is how long your software is going to record for. By default, we leave it at 4.5 seconds because we find that a lot of users use 4.5 or even 5 seconds. If you need it to record longer, you can go ahead and adjust it. It can record from anywhere from 2 seconds to 8 seconds. Again, this does not represent how long your video is. This is just saying how long the software is going to record for. TouchPix then adds, the boomerang, it adds the slow motion features. And at the end of the recording, this turns into like a 14, 15-second recording. And then if you add a promotional video, that 15 seconds, you add 10 seconds to that, it'll be like a 25-second video at the very end. So really depends on how fast you want to render. It really depends on how long you want your video. For the purposes of this webinar, let's leave it at, I'm going to just move it to 5. That way you guys can see how long that is. And I'm recording for 5 seconds. I'm adding a slow-mo boomerang. And for those that are curious to know what that is after it applies the effects of slow motion, and it applies all the effects that you tell it to apply, what it's going to do, it's going to play the video in reverse once it reaches the end, like the boomerang effect. So it just plays it back in reverse. So it's actually a very cool effect. I'm going to go ahead and enable that. This next area is for adding the audio file. So TouchPix will give you about 14 different free music files. You load those from your phone. I will go through that once we get there to that setup. But in the event that you don't want any of those songs and you want to be able to use your own songs, you're able to do so. The only conditions that you have is that the files need to be MP3 files, and they can't exceed 20 megabytes. Well, 20 megabytes is actually a pretty big file. So as long as you're able to secure an MP3 file, you're able to load it here. Like anything else, you just click choose file. And in my specific scenario, I think I'm going to go into TouchPix files, right? And I'm going to look for that folder that I created, which is in here. Once I point it to this folder, it will always open on this folder automatically. So it makes it easier for me to find my files. I can load this song called Latin Joint or this royalty-free song, right? If I hover over this track, you can see that this is an MP3 file that's 31 seconds long, and the file size is super small. It's not even 1 megabyte. So, right, you can load it and hit open, and you see that it already loaded the track there, royalty-free. I'm going to remove it a little bit later, but this is one way where you can go ahead and load your own music. So I get this question a lot. I want to cover it now. So a lot of people say, well, I have Apple Music or I have Spotify. Can I use that music? And the answer for me on that is no, right? Apple Music doesn't give you MP3 files, neither does Spotify. They give you a different file format that's not MP3. It is up to you if you want to use that music to find the proper way to convert it. We do things legally and based on legalities. With record labels, we can't show you how to illegally input a file that doesn't belong to you or me, right? That's why we recommend that you use royalty-free music sites. What are royalty-free music sites? They're music sites that have independent artists, right, that are not mainstream, that are not owned by a record label. Some of them are free, some of them have a fee. Tia was able to put a lot of those sites on the chat. A lot of those links are in the chat. You can explore either option. But if you're adamant about using a file that you want, you just have to do a little bit more research as far as how you can convert whatever file you're trying to do or use into an MP3 music file. Because this will take any MP3 music file if you know how to load it properly. Okay. As I scroll down here, this is Screen Flash. This has nothing to do with slow motion video. It's an iPad photo booth feature. Leave it disabled. And we're in the timeouts area. These numbers represent number of seconds, right? We want to be able to cycle through as much people or as many guests as possible efficiently. So a lot of these are meant for photo booths, right? Like adding the props or editing a screen, like adding some filters to the screen and things like that for photos. It'll give you 12 seconds for the user to do that. But since we're doing videos, I recommend that all of these settings here, the thank you screen, editing screen, the prop screen, you're gonna wanna set those to 0. The only important feature here or the section would be sharing. Leave sharing at 12 or drop it down to 6, whatever you feel comfortable with. Sharing needs to have a numerical value because that's going to allow your guests to input their text message, phone number, or email without the system timing out on them, okay? So give this a numerical value. Everything else has zeros, okay? As we go down, we're now in the sharing area. So now TouchPix is asking you, well, how do you want to share this video? And for the purposes of this webinar, I'm going to share via email. I'm not going to do Facebook. I'm not going to do Twitter. I'm not doing copy. And I'm okay with the rest, right? So email is pretty standard. People know how to share via email. They input their email address. TouchPix has the ability to capture email addresses, phone numbers for marketing purposes. So you can actually, once people input their information, you can actually have access to that at the end of the event, right? And for people that do data marketing or data blast, that's pretty important information. Or if you're doing a corporate event for maybe a car dealership, right, that wants to have your booth out there, well, they're going to want you probably to use email addresses because they're going to want access to those email addresses to market to those customers that visited that car lot that event, right? So this is just, food for thought. These are pro tips that people sometimes overlook, but that's what email, you're able to email and share whatever file that is. We don't use Facebook or Twitter because Facebook and Twitter consider TouchPix or a lot of iOS apps, third-party apps. So if I were to activate Facebook and Twitter and the guest says I want to share via that Facebook sharing method, it's going to require the guest to input their entire Facebook email address and password. And quite frankly, a lot of people don't remember what those passwords are. It's easier if they just share via email or text message, because once it reaches their phone, they can actually upload it into their own social media accounts. WhatsApp is, it's actually a growing way of sharing. This is great for international guests. WhatsApp is just a keypad, just like text messaging. Text messaging is SMS. SMS text messaging is the same thing as WhatsApp. It's just WhatsApp has had a huge following and it's been blowing up tremendously since Facebook or Meta took it over. Download is very important. I'll cover that in a little bit, but AirDrop is probably people's choice because it's extremely quick, but not everybody has an iPhone. AirDrop is efficient, it's quick, you're able to get the file to them immediately. But again, not everybody has an iPhone. And for people that don't have iPhones, you can share via QR code for people with Android. The only downfall to that would be that if you're going to be sharing via QR code, you have to have a good internet connection on your sharing device, meaning that your sharing device needs to be connected either to the internet or cellular signal, and that cellular signal needs to be pretty good signal. You can't operate it with 1 bar, or sometimes even 2 bars is not enough, depending on the service area, right? And then general will let you share via iChat. It'll let you share via like Facebook Messenger, just different variety of sharing. But I wanted to go back to the download section, right? Download is very important for you guys to check off. So just, take notes on that. Make sure that download is always checked on. And the reason why it's important is because when a guest gets off the platform and say they shoot themselves a text message, right? They're not actually receiving the actual video via text because this is a high quality video. What they're going to be receiving when the internet's good is a link. TouchPix uploads all the content onto the cloud server, right? So once you receive a link, if you're using an iPhone or the user is using an iPhone and you click on that link, automatically the iPhones open up your Safari web browser by default. Well, the Safari web browser by Apple doesn't let you download the video unless you have this box here that says download. It'll actually give you a download button. So that's important. If you forget to do that, people will get the video, but they won't be able to download it. They'll be able to play it, but not download it onto their device. So hopefully that makes sense. And these are the recommended sharing methods that I use, okay? You can play with any of them to see how you like it, and you can see what best fits your needs, okay? Edit screen here, this is for videos. If you hover over these question marks, it also explains to you what that feature does. Again, it allows you to draw on pictures, it allows you to add stickers. Well, that's for photo booth. We're doing a video booth. That's not necessary, so this is unchecked, okay? Another thing that's super important is this in-app gallery feature here. This is very important. This controls how your apps are going to be shared or your sharing station. So always leave this checked on. It's super important to leave this checked on, okay? Depending on the methods that you share or that you use to share, you're in control of the email subject heading. You can change this to XYZ photo booth. If that was the name of my company, you know, people will be getting an email saying, oh, XYZ photo booth just emailed me, right? And then you have control over the text that's going to be embedded into that email. So right here, it has TouchPix with some captions on the side. You can change that and say XYZ. So my message for all of them, I'm just going to type it up. Thank you for using. This is what I do because I like to keep it very consistent and easy. I don't like to spend too much time in the setup. So I go XYZ photo booth. You can say click to view video, and that's how I leave, right? If I were to leave a number, or I can say, please call us at, and I'm just going to put a fake number here real quick. Oops, I'm going to do it without the dashes though. It's important to do it without the dashes. The text messaging portion is it's kind of very sensitive, right? And we want to prevent your text message from being flagged as spam. So try not to use any special characters. You're going to see that here on the text messaging side. Don't use any special characters, and everything will be fine. So if this was my default message, what I'll do is type it out here, and then I'm going to highlight it and do a cut and paste, and I'll put it on every single box, right? You get one for the web gallery and social share, you know, just to save time, and this is efficient for every category. I just leave it as is. And again, I may want to change this to XYZ photo booth. And these are your sharing methods. So now your guest has the ability of knowing who you are and how to get a hold of you. They're going to be getting that via email or text, okay? So as we scroll down, we're in the prop section. Because this is a video booth, we have no props, so I'm okay with that. And you're in the branding section because you're also able to brand the app, right? You don't want it to say TouchPix. You're paying for the service. You should be able to brand your business, right? So when people walk up to the booth, they can see the branding. So in this case, I can name it my business. In this case, as an example, I'm using XYZ photo booth, right? And you get some areas here where it says choose a file, right? These files are hopefully files that you are going to start getting organized and start getting made before you set up your event. and put them in that folder on your desktop like I asked. So this app logo file, whatever file you load here, if you're using a sharing station, you're going to see it on your sharing station. And if you're using an Apple TV, which is also it's also optional, you don't need to use an Apple TV. You can, if you load a certain file here, you're going to be able to see it on your Apple TV. Okay. The app background file, whatever file you load here, you're actually going to be able to see it on your iPhone or iPad, whatever you're using. You're going to see it behind the TouchPix controls. So if you have a nice logo, whatever logo you use, you're going to be able to see it behind the TouchPix controls. It's not going to say TouchPix. It'll have your branding. And of course, the web gallery background, whatever logo you load here, when you deliver your gallery, once your event is done, you're going to have your professional logo in the back of that gallery. So your guest opens it up. They're going to say, oh, okay, that's the company that I hired for my 360 booth, and it looks nice and professional. So what I'm going to do is load up these logos, and just kind of a pro tip that I use, you don't have to do it, but I try to be very efficient with the setup, is I use the same file in all 3 locations, right? You're going to see what I mean by that. I'm going to explain what a track screen is. This is optional, and the track screen is more for people, lack of a better way of explaining it is it's basically a screensaver. If your photo booth is not being used for a period of, maybe a minute or two, if you load a file here, it's going to load a screensaver. It can be a picture, it can be a MP4, which makes it kind of like a movie file. And that's a screensaver, and it's meant to attract attention, right? So people can say, oh, what's that video playing over there? And it's your photo booth, right? And in order to get out of the screensaver mode, all you have to do is tap the screen. So it's super, super easy to do. I'm not going to use this. I rarely use this, but I have in the past. You can play with that feature if you want. I'm just going to show you how to load up the app logo. And as you can see, my logos are the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on choose file. You're going to see automatically it's taking me to my folder here that I located where everything's organized. That's the beauty of this. And I'm going to use this TouchPix logo here. And I'm just going to hover on this TouchPix logo. And you're going to see that logo is a PNG file. You're going to see the dimensions are 2100 by 1500, and the size is very small, right? This is what I would recommend that you use as far as logos. Whoever designs your logos, I would recommend that you work with PNG files. PNG files are transparent files. And the reason why I recommend PNG files is because when you get to designing your actual artwork on your overlay for the video, it's going to be a PNG file anyways. And I would hate to tell you use a JPEG, and somewhere along the line you get them confused, and now you're just jumbled because you don't know what goes where, right? So always use PNG files is what I would recommend. I'm going to select TouchPix, load it. It's already loaded. For the app background, I use the same exact file, PNG file. And for the web gallery background, I'll use the same exact file. You don't have to use the same exact file. I make it efficient. I make it look, I think, pretty good. So, you can play with your setup and how you want to use it. But just be mindful, it does take JPEG files or MP4s at times in certain areas. But I'm recommending that you stick with using PNGs. It'll make so much more sense and it'll be so much more efficient as far as how fast you load up an event, okay? I'm not going to use an attract screen, but I'm going to explain this here where it says text and button color. If my logo had a white background, right? And like I said, I'm using this TouchPix logo. It looks like it has a white background, but because it's a PNG file, it's just a logo floating. There's nothing behind it. All it is the logo. It's transparent. If this was a JPEG, it would definitely have a white background, right? Because JPEGs have a background to them, right? So if my logo had a white background, I would want my text and the buttons to be a different color, because if my text and buttons were white, you wouldn't be able to see the prompts. It'd be camouflage. So in the event that you do have a white background, you can click on the square and just turn your text into a different color. That's what you want to do. I'm not worried about it, so I'm going to leave it as white and leave it as is. We're going down to the trigger area. I'm going to explain what trigger is, but I'm not going to enable it. So this is what the trigger does. If you're using an iPhone on top of the 360 arm, every iPhone or iPad, they have built-in GPS, right? So the way the app works with this trigger method is if you're mounting your device onto the arm for recording, and a lot of you have automatic spinners. As soon as you click start on your automatic spinner, the app is going to recognize that the phone is being moved based on that GPS barometer that's on there. So once it recognizes that it's being used, it's going to start the session. It'll start the countdown to 1 and it'll record, right? A lot of people like to use the trigger. I like total control, so I don't use the trigger. I like to know when my arm starts. I like to know when my arm stops. And I like to keep all my videos a little bit kind of fluid and consistent. But everybody's going to develop their own workflow, so do what works best for you. That's what the motion trigger is. It automatically detects if your phone's being moved, and it'll start a session on its own once the arm starts moving. I'm not going to use it here, but that's what this feature does, okay? And then lastly, this external screen. This external screen here is actually a optional feature. This external screen here uses what's called the Apple TV box. If you do a screen share with the Apple TV box under screen mirroring, it opens up a different side of the software where now, if I were to click enable screen section, for people that are using iPhones, you're going to be able to live view and see the person being recorded. So the person that's on the platform, once they hit start, if you do a live view external session, they're going to see themselves being recorded on TV if you have a TV nearby. And as soon as they get off the platform and the video is done processing, they'll be also able to see the video playback, right? Do a video playback of their session. In addition to that, if you have great internet, if you click on the QR carousel, right next to the video on the screen, you will see a QR code where now the guest can walk up to the TV, scan that QR code, and download the video without having to use a sharing station like that, right? The only thing that I want to make myself clear with this is great. This is more of a show enhancer. This is definitely an add-on. This is something that you're going to want to maybe charge $300, $400, $500 extra for bringing out a TV to be able to enhance that event. But as far as the QR carousel, you're only going to have control over the last 4 QR codes, right? The most recent 4 sessions are the ones that are going to pop up. So if a guest jumps onto the platform, does a recording, right, forgets to retrieve their video, goes into the party, mingles, comes back to you an hour later and says, I forgot to get my video. Can you shoot me that QR code on the screen? You won't be able to do that. You're going to have to send her to a sharing station so she can get that video herself through a thumbnail, right? It only does the 4 most recent sessions, right? And like I said, it does the live view recording, and the company logo is actually on the TV. When this is enabled, it just gets whatever logo you used and loaded here, and it puts it onto the TV. So what about GoPro users? With GoPro users, it's a little different. As of now, we do not have a way to live view with the GoPro, right? The GoPro typically has a camera in front of it, especially the GoPro 10, but we're not able to make that connection with the TV. I think our development team is very close, but we're just not there yet. It'd be a cool feature when it comes out. But if you have a GoPro, you don't want to activate external screen. What you're going to want to activate is slideshow. So this turns into a slideshow now once you do a screen mirroring, and everything that every video that's on that you've had for that specific event, it'll play in a loop and it'll play as a slideshow. So you kind of pick, you know, how you want to use it. Again, it's optional. You don't have to use it. It uses an Apple TV. And just to be clear, an Apple TV is a box that plugs into your TV via HDMI. It's similar to a Amazon Fire Stick, similar to a Google Chromecast. All it needs to be is powered and have an HDMI plugged in. Once you reach the end here, like I have, you're gonna have to hit consent and hit submit. I know this took a little while for me to explain, but I assure you, once you do two, maybe your third event, this that I just explained should be done in less than 5 minutes, right? I just went through every detail, that way you understand exactly what each feature does. So we loaded the event and it gave me a QR code. We're not ready to scan that QR code yet because we want to design what that overlay looks like. So I'm going to go over to the designer and click designer. And we have a new designer, but this is our old designer. And I'm going to show you how to use kind of both to a certain degree. Once I clicked the designer, it took us to the old designer. So if you're like me and, you know, I'm only good with certain tech stuff, I'm not a very great designer. So I tend to lean on people for designs because I just, you know, for one, I'm colorblind. For two, I don't have that designer eye. So for most of my events, I have somebody else design them for me. But I will show you a way where you can save a lot of money and kind of have some awesome designs as well. So if you go the way I go, where you're paying somebody to design a specific artwork, you know, you're gonna choose whoever that may be. There's a lot of people in our group. I will say this: don't be so trusting. If you engage with somebody that can design for you, I would recommend that you you ask them for samples of work similar to what you want, right? Even if they watermark it, at least they can send you something that you know that, okay, this guy's a real designer. People have been burnt. We can't control like who's in our group in that way because people disappeared, changed their names, and it's been hard. So really try to get somebody that a lot of people can refer you to. But typically when you find a designer, they're gonna ask you, well, okay, I'll design it for you. They're gonna ask you, number one question would be, what size is your template? And to locate the size of the template, once you're in the designer, you're gonna click on templates right here on the top left-hand side. It's already on slow-mo. And these are the 5 option templates that you have. Template 1 is a vertical style template. This is great for like Instagram Reels or Facebook Reels, or right. The phone, if you're using an iPhone or even the GoPro, people have turned it vertically, meaning on its side, right? On the phone, was where the camera is on top or at the bottom, whatever way you want to use it. It's just a vertical way of capturing the video. Template 2 and 3 and 4, they have more of a wider angle. It doesn't matter if in this case, it doesn't matter if you're using the phone vertical or landscape, meaning on its side. You know, you can get away with that with template 2. Template 3 and 4, the phone does need to be on its side because it has that wide angle lens, wide angle view. As you can tell, if you use template 3, you can see a little bit more of the background. Template 4 has a full wide angle view of the background. And template 5 is more of a vertical version or a cropped version of template 1, right? So you pick which template you want. Once you decide what template you want, like in this case, I'm going to use template 3, right? I can go over to where it says uploads. Under uploads, there's a question mark here under custom overlay. It's going to give you all the template sizes right here for every single template that we use, right? So if you find a designer and they ask you, well, what size is your template? If you're using template 1, you're going to give them this size here, 1072 by 1440, and that's in pixels. Everything's in pixels here. I'm using template 3, so I'm using 1440 by 1072. All they need is the size. They'll design it for you. Most than likely, they're going to email it to you. Once they email it to you, you're going to save it onto your folder on your desktop, right? And you can click custom overlay. It automatically opens up that folder that you designated, and you can pick whatever template that is, right? I'm going to choose that template there, even though it's probably not the correct size, but it'll work for this purpose. So once you pick it, once you choose it, it's gonna pop up here on the lower left-hand side. Then you click on it and it throws it all on top of your silhouette. So you can get an idea of how that looks. And if I'm happy with this template, all I do is hit add template, right? I'm gonna do that real quick. And it says template added, and I'm done. Make sure that you're adding it to the correct event, because I have tons of events and I don't want to add it to the wrong event, right? So that's why you have to name your event at the beginning. Once you are done with this part, now you can go and scan the QR code. But before we do that, I'm going to show you the new designer for people that are probably like me, that don't have this design skills, right? You can go to designer and go to the new designer in beta, right? I'm going to ask you to log in. You're going to log in. There's no credentials needed. And it makes it real easy. So at the very beginning, it's telling you what type of event are we looking at, video or photo. We're going to say video. Then select the event. I named it 629 webinar. This is the correct event. Now we're going to pick the template that we were going to choose. And in my case, it was, for me, on the old designer, it was template 3. I know it's a little confusing because they're a little off here. So as I click on it, I can select use template. So this is my template 3. This is what makes it so easy now to design with TouchPix, is once you get to this part, you can go over here where it says manage design and go to design library. And TouchPix is giving you for free all of these designs that you can edit yourself. They're already pre-formatted templates for any type of event, right? And you can edit any of these templates. For example, if I were to choose this template here, by the way, you can filter it through through theme, birthday, wedding, Halloween, Christmas, grad party, everything, right? So it has something for everything. In this case, let me go back here, design library. I'm gonna go look for a template. I think I was gonna choose this one here. It loaded the template for me, right? So this is a template that I wanted to use. I'm okay with that. And now I want to add text. So it makes it super easy for me to add text. You see this little text icon here on the left, you're going to click on it. And the box opens up. There's text here, but you can't see it because it's white. So I'm going to drag it over to the side, right? And what you can do is actually adjust the spacing, right? Maybe something like that. You could actually change the font, something that may fit a little bit better. Let's try to use, it looks like they added some more fonts, which is good. It's always a good one to keep on adding stuff. Guess we can use anything, but a little curious. Okay, that's way too many fonts, but I'm gonna try to use one from the top here. Let's use this here, right? And it says write something. You could actually change the font color. Maybe I want something in black. Maybe I want it in blue, right? So right where it says write something, what you can do is hit edit, and you can say this is a birthday, happy birthday, click done, right? You can still make it bigger or smaller. You can position it right in the middle, and bam, I'm pretty much done. Or if you still wanted to add your logo to this, what you can do is go over to manage design, hit manage stickers. You can load a sticker from your computer, right? And double click here. I'm going to use that TouchPix logo. Again, I love it when it always opens up in that folder that I have. I'm going to hit open, upload. And this is my TouchPix sticker here. I'm going to click on it. Once I click on it, you see it pops it over to your screen. You have the ability to resize, super easy, right? And you have the ability to place it somewhere where you think it looks best, right? Maybe I want my logo there, right? And if I'm happy with this, I can hit add to event, and it'll add to my event, right? Automatically, or you can keep modifying it. So at that point, we're basically done. So we're going to go over to the phone now, right? I'm going to go ahead and log out. I didn't upload this design. I'm going to use the one that I did with the old system, but essentially it's the same process. So I'm going to go over to now, once you log out, I'm going to go over to my account, events. You can see that this is the event that we created. It says test right there. And then if you click on overlays, it's going to have the other overlay that I uploaded, which is this one, because that's the one that I want to activate the event with. And once we're ready to scan, we're going to hit QR code. Let me take a picture of that with my device. That way you guys can see the entire process. Give me 1 second here. Okay, and here is my screen mirror. That way you guys can see it from my phone. Let me grab it real quick. All right, so this is the, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open up TouchPix, right? Once I open up TouchPix, I'm gonna click on activate event. And now it's asking me if I want to activate it as a test sharing station or activate. I'm gonna hit activate. So now I'm gonna scan the QR code. And now it says event recognized. Let it load the event. So essentially what it's loading is every setting that we went through is transferring it over to your phone. So it's asking you for permissions for the network. I'm going to click OK. It's asking me for permissions for the microphone, hit OK. And it's going to ask me for permissions for the photos. So it's important you allow access, right? And because we're using that screen mirroring effect for a slideshow, it's going to download a quick resource file and hit OK. And let it do its thing. Okay, and we're pretty much ready to go. This is how it's going to look, right? And once you have your event loaded, the next step would be in configuring your camera, right? So your camera should be as follows, right? Your camera should be, you're going to want to go over to the menu. This is the hamburger icon. I call it the hamburger icon. You're going to want to go over to settings, right? By default, if you pay attention to where it says compress right here, it actually loads it at medium quality. I want to go ahead and do ultra high quality. That's the best video possible. Well, there's actually a better resolution, and I'm going to explain that. But I'm also going to give you my disclaimer. Okay, so ultra high quality is one of the best outputs. If your internet connection is super good and you have fast internet, and you know that you have fast internet, what I would recommend you do is, if you look at here where it says apply compress, You can disable compression so you actually get the original file without any type of compression, right? But it's giving you a warning that you better make sure that you have very fast upload speed, because if you don't, you're going to run into a lot of issues in sharing the content, okay? So now you might want to ask me, well, how do I know whether or not I have great speed, right? So TouchPix even went a step further and gave you the tools necessary all in the app. You can click here where it says network speed, toggle that on, and it's going to actually test whatever Wi-Fi connection you're currently on. Right? So as you can see, it's telling me my upload speed is 19.46. For me, I think that's adequate. Anything above 19 or 20, I think that's pretty good upload speed to go uncompressed. But 19 is probably that would probably be the lowest I would be at. If I have anything lower than that, I wouldn't go and do it without compression, okay? So I know there's people out there that have the upload speed in the hundreds. And for that, I would definitely welcome that. But anything above 19, I think you'll be okay. Below 19, you're might run into some issues, okay? So I'm gonna click okay. Then what I want to make sure and do is turn this off, because it's gonna keep on asking me to test the network speed, and I don't want to keep doing that. So I turned it off. So the next step here would be this top arrow here where it says session. You're going to want to click to the right. No printer selected. Great. Camera. So as far as your camera, you're going to want to set up your camera settings. If you're using an iPhone, this is the recommended settings. You're going to want to make sure it's set to back, right? Then you're going to come down here where it says lens type. Click on this box that says lens type. And instead of wide, go ultra wide. This is only available for the iPhone 11, 12, or 13, or the very latest iPad Pro, okay? After that, you're gonna wanna go and hit slow-mo speed. It's gonna give you a disclaimer saying that you gotta change your slow-mo speed, because we made that adjustment on the camera. Now we're gonna click on slow-mo speed, and the ideal slow-mo speed would be 1920 by 1080 at 120 frames per second, and click done, okay? Once we're done doing that, we're going to go over to the right, photo boost effects. I don't care about photo boost effects. I'm going to go to the right again, and video effects. Well, this is where your video effects live. This is where you need to kind of pay attention and see what works best for you in this area. So I did promise one of the callers that I would show her how to load a confetti effect that we use with overlay black. I haven't used that effect in quite some time. I'm going to show an overlay alpha effect, which is the same, essentially the same thing, but it's kind of our new, feature. Well, it hasn't been too new, it's a little old now, but it's certainly newer than the overlay black. Overlay black is when the app first came out, we were pretty on top of wanting to offer animated effects. And we figured it out, but it wasn't necessarily the best way to do it because rendering time was a little long. And maybe I'll show you both, but this is what we're going to do today. It's the same type of effect using overlay alpha. You just need to design the actual file a little bit differently. We'll use both. So this is your effect category. We have audio. If you guys recall, I loaded an audio track online. I'm going to delete it so I can show you how to access the free files that TouchPix gives you. By deleting it, I'm going to click on audio. A window opens up, and I'm going to tap delete, and it's gone. Now I want to add the audio, so I'm going to hit add effect, and I'm going to scroll down to where it says music. From music, I'm going to click done. Then I'm going to actually click on this music tab in the gray box. And now it's telling me in order for me to use this effect, I need to download some files. I'm going to click OK. And TouchPix is quickly downloading. This does it only the first time. 14 different tracks. I'm going to be using track 13, selected track 13. These are all free, provided by TouchPix. Now you have room for 2 more effects. I'm going to add another effect. And what I'm going to do is add, actually, let me do the confetti. I'm going to do overlay black. Here we go. Overlay black is the effect. This you can find in our touchpix.com under the shop, the confetti pack. Once I have overlay black, I'm going to click on overlay black, right? And it's asking me, where do I have that file? I'm going to click choose file. This file is stored on your phone. And in my case, it's under, it's actually in my Dropbox. So let me go over to my Dropbox. Let me find that specific folder. Well, it's not letting me check that. Let me see if I can find it this other way. Here. Give me 1 second here. So there's confetti. Okay, here it is, confetti. I'm going to choose confetti, and it's loading the confetti file. I'm hoping it's able to download real quick. It is in my Dropbox. I should have probably had it on my phone. Let me see if it downloads. Okay, that's taking way too long for what it is. Okay, give me 1 sec here. Maybe I do have a copy on my phone somewhere. So let's go overlay black, choose file, file. Let's go phone. Man, just my luck, I don't have it. Give me 1 sec here, see if I can access it again. Okay, I need to get into my Dropbox folder. You know what? I do have it on a separate device. I'm just going to airdrop it. Give me 1 second here, and hopefully that'll resolve that. Let me see. Okay, so I was able to airdrop it. I think. me see. Sorry about that. It's just taking a little bit to airdrop.
I can take some questions while you're doing that, DJ, if you want. Just let me know.
Okay. So I just airdrop. You guys can see I just airdropped it.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, sorry, it just took me a while to get access to my other device. I'm gonna save it to files. Oops, it's not where I want to save it. On my phone. Files. Okay, sorry about that. I just needed to save it in the right location. So I'm gonna now load up that overlay black. It's confetti 3. And as you can see, it loaded up right away. I just didn't have it ready for you guys. Wasn't planning on using it, but since that caller is on the call and she wanted to see how it worked, I wanted to go ahead and show her. So then those are 2 effects. I'm gonna add one more effect just because I want to just use all of them. And that is the 3rd effect. And the last effect, what you need to do when you add some of these effects is click on the box and control, let me see, kind of control where everything is at. So let's go back in here, settings. You want to control where the effect gets placed. Right. And in this case, I clicked on the black and white portrait and I'm going to move it with my finger. Here we go. Here we go. So I want that effect to be added at that portion of the video. Then I'm going to hit go back. And I'm pretty much done. I'm going to do a quick little test here with the iPhone, and then I'm going to transition over to the GoPro wired. Okay, so that way you guys can see. And I'm actually working out of my kitchen, so sorry about that. So this kind of gives you an idea. Sorry about my kids and their gym mats right there, but you guys can see an idea of what that's going to look like. So it's adjusting speed, it's adding the boomerang. You guys can see the process. I just did a quick little 5-second still recording. And let me know if the caller is still on, if hers is taking longer than this, because it shouldn't. I mean, overlay black does take a few added seconds. Like if you see it there, it is adding it now. You know, it's just an old way of us using effects. We're now using overlay alpha, but the overlay black effects are no longer able to be used like that. It's just alpha is a much better resolution.
Oh,
but,
got it. Okay.
So you guys can see the quality. I'm going to leave this up there real quick. That way you guys can download the quality and see for yourselves how it looks. But what I want to do now is kind of show you the GoPro wired, and then we're going to do the sharing station, and we're going to conclude today's event. So it's going to stay up there for a little longer. Going to stay up there for a little longer, and then we're going to see what we can do. That way you guys can actually see the quality of the event and, you know, kind of what we got working with. Okay, I'm going to take it down and maybe take a couple questions Tia, will I make that transition over to the GoPro?
Okay, we're going to take a few quick questions during this intermission period. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, I have a quick question.
Mhm.
I would like to see if I can just get a reminder on, he mentioned how you can utilize the boomerang effect where the camera will spin all the way around and then it'll go backwards. For some reason in my notes, I missed that specific.
That's on the setup page at touchpix.com. You enable slow-mo boomerang. It's a box that you literally check.
Okay, so I would enable slow-mo boomerang. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
No problem. Anyone else?
I have a
Excuse
question.
me, guys. I'm also eating my dinner, so excuse me for my chewing. But next.
I have a question. So we actually did our first event last Thursday. We actually did a 8th grade dance. And in our videos, I noticed that it looks like the people was just dancing all over the video, right? You didn't see that effect of the turn where you see most of the body and you could tell they on a 360 and where they turn and then reverse and turn back the other way. They did boomerang and reverse back, but it just looked like they was just dancing all over the place. How do you get that video output where you can actually see most of the body and you can actually tell that the people is on a 360? Not necessarily seeing the 360 platform, but you can see most of the body and tell that they're on a 360.
If I'm following your question, you want to see more of the body, and you're asking how do you do that?
Yes.
That's all about one, making sure that you have in your app, having your camera set to ultra wide view, and then have your ultra wide lens enabled, and then the positioning of your arm. And the positioning of your arm is a major factor of it. You know, when you're taking a picture of someone, the closer you're up to someone, the less you capture of them. The more you move away from them, the more you're able to capture. So practice with moving your arm back, down, up. But the further away you can get away with moving your arm from the platform, the more body and the more coverage you'll have. And I know a lot of times when we have events, you know, the host, et cetera, doesn't give us enough room to adequately set up, but it's definitely all a majority of the kind of factor in full body is the positioning of your arm. So when you do have time in between events, just practice with the positioning of your arms to figure out what works for your platform. All platforms are different. Arms are different. The capacity of the pullback and how high you can extend it, how far back you can extend it differs from platform to platform. So that'll be something that you have to kind of test and figure out for yourself and what works for you, the equipment you use and the device you use.
Okay, and that would not have had anything to do with the overlay templates.
Yes, well, your overlay, the more you have on your overlay, the less you'll see. So we always, when you upload it to TouchPix, you had that silhouette of the man. So that's kind of your baseline of how much you'll see on your in your actual video. So you want to see as much of you want to make sure you see the full silhouette of the man and as much as that blue area around the man as possible. So if you have a very busy overlay, the less you'll actually see of the people on your platform. So the overlay, yes, does also play a factor into it.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Ready, DJ?
Yeah, I'm getting ready here. There's one part that I didn't cover that I just wanted to circle back to it real quick because I'm using.
Oh, and I'm glad because I was going to say that to show all the capabilities of the GoPro.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, I'll take another question. Someone else has another question?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
On the editor, On the new one, are there any animated templates included
No.
in that? No, they're all designed already.
Mhm.
Okay, and then this might be just a one-off case, or if it's part of the test, you let me know. But when I was doing just a test run, my partner was recording on his phone, and he shared one of the videos to me, so I was able to pull it up on the TouchPix website, like on the sharing website.
Mhm.
But there was something going on where if he wasn't on the app, I couldn't pull up the website. And then he would open the app, and then I was able to pull up the website. Is that a thing?
No, that's not in no, that's not a thing. So maybe give us a call in support.
Mhm.
And maybe it was a one-time thing. If you test and it happens again,
Mhm.
definitely give us a call and support, but that's not a common thing. That has never come up. So that's more of something that we may need to kind of address on the support team. And I put that information for our support
Mhm.
team in the chat, and DJ and myself are also a part of the support team. So you may get one of us when you contact, but that's
Got
something
it.
that we will have to kind of ask a few more questions and kind of walk through to see what was going on.
Yeah. Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, so here we go. So this is going to be the GoPro setup and the wired setup, right? But before I do that, I wanted to back up just one quick second here, because I'm using now what's called an overlay alpha. And the overlay alpha effect is going to be an animated overlay that we're using. And aside from that, I didn't show you guys where to load up your promo video. Your promo video is this square right here where it says post roll. Depending on the template that you're using, you're going to have your designer design a promo video with your company information, but it has to be the same size as the original template that you're using. So if you're using a template 1, make sure your promo video is also done in the same size as template 1. If you're going to be using template 3, make sure that you design it in template 3 sizing. That way everything goes fluid and looks super professional. But once you have it, it's going to be on your phones. You're going to click post roll. I'm going to click files, and it's going to be called, in my case, is the outro file, and it's loaded. So I have 3 effects. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the GoPro side, and we're going to go from there. Everything's set. We're good to go, right? This is the event. And I have my GoPro here. I'm using the GoPro 10. It is connected. So there's a couple of things that for people that want to know about the GoPro. If you're going to control it with an iPhone, you do need the authentic Apple Lightning to USB 3 connector. It works with this one. There's one other one that Apple sells for the iPhone that is Lightning to USB with a pass-through like this. It doesn't work for the iPhone. This is one for my iPad mini, because you can connect it with an iPad mini. The iPad mini has a USB-C, but I'm just using this for illustration purposes. USB-C from Apple to USB 3 and pass-through does work on the iPad mini. Lightning to USB 3 and pass-through does not work. It needs to be this one. So I just want to make sure I got that clear. So this is the GoPro, right? Once you want to do the connection with the GoPro, first of all, you're going to want to establish that your GoPro is in the correct settings. It's going to be 1080, 120, right? You can actually change those settings in the GoPro app, but we want to connect it to the app. So what we're going to do first is, oops, give me one sec here. I think I pressed photo. I need to toggle it over back to video. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and go down and to the left. I want to go over to connections. And then from here, you're going to hit connect device and use quick app. You only have to do this the first time. From your device, what you're going to want to do now is go into the quick app, right? You're going to look for your GoPro and hit control GoPro. You're going to see that it says connection successful. I'm going to enable live view preview and hit continue. It's going to join the network. And right now we're not at the wired connection yet. This is just what you need to do the first time to connect. And I think, okay, there it is, right? You see the wired connection. This is where you can actually make the changes by tapping on the size if you have a different size. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna minimize it, just move it to the side real quick and go back into TouchPix. And with TouchPix, as you can see, the GoPro is connected USB-C, but this end is not connected yet. So within the TouchPix app, you're gonna wanna go to the menu, wanna go over to camera. From camera, you're gonna select GoPro, right? And then you're gonna hit connect GoPro. You're gonna see the name of the GoPro pop up. You're gonna select it. And then it's asking you if you wanna do wired or wireless. This is where you need to plug it in. So now I'm gonna go ahead and plug it in. Sorry, I'm doing
And it
everything.
shouldn't be plugged in before this point.
Yeah, it should not be. Once you plug it in, you should, this is the important part. Your camera should say USB connected. Once it says USB connected, now you're gonna hit wired. And now it connected. You're good. Everything's good. So now we're gonna do a test run. I'm gonna hit go back, right? I'm gonna try to do everything in one frame. So check this out. So now I'm gonna hit slow-mo. It's doing the countdown. It's starting to record. You can see the record process, right? There it is. Now it's recording, downloading last media, and look how fast it's going through its cycles. I am using an animated overlay on this one, adjusting speed test. It's going, now it's adding boomerang. And for people that have used GoPro before, you already know that it's, before it got to this point, it was taking a while for the file transfer to come in wirelessly. And be mindful of not only that, some disconnection issues based on venue, stuff that's outside of our control with wireless connection issues. So it's already adding outro video, audio, and now it's gonna play it back. And mind you, I'm using an animated overlay on this. So this is even something that added a little bit more time to that. And look at that overlay that I'm using. There's animation to that overlay, right? You see that animation overlay? That's the overlay alpha now. And that's the effect coming in. And I know you guys can't do it justice, so I'm also gonna, what I'm gonna do is in a short bit, I'm also gonna let you guys download this file real quick, that way you guys can see it. So that's my outro video there that I plugged in at the end, and boom, we're basically done with that, right? But before I toggle over to let you guys download that video, I'm gonna, now that I'm here, I wanna show you guys how to connect the sharing station real quick. And the sharing station is gonna be like this. The iPad here, I already scanned it as a sharing station, right? So if you guys don't know how to do that, is the same QR code, but instead of activating it as an event, I activate it as a sharing station. That puts it in sharing mode. First thing you wanna do with the sharing station to do it, you know, to have your chances of sharing be a success, what you need to do is first is go over to your settings, right? Under settings, to your left, you're gonna wanna go over to general, then to your right, you wanna go to airdrop, and off of airdrop, you wanna make sure airdrop is set to everyone, right? It's set to everyone. Now you're gonna wanna go back. Now you're gonna wanna go over to display and brightness. And from display and brightness to the right, you're gonna wanna go to auto lock and make sure auto lock is set to never. That means that it's gonna prevent your iPad from going on screensaver mode. It's gonna stay connected. After you do that, now you can go back into TouchPix, which is already on sharing mode. And with the sharing station first, you always start with the sharing station first, hit gallery, right? And then click on the S. Turn that S into where it says activate receiver, which I'm gonna go ahead and click on now. It turns into a white R. Now from my phone, I'm gonna do the same thing. Gallery, click on the S, hit activate sender. You see the name of my iPad pop up, select it. It should say success, right? Now I'm gonna exit out of here. That turns into a green R, and now we're gonna wait for that video to jump over to this screen here, right? And again, this is an uncompressed video that I used because I took the compression off. Even though it's kind of low lighting right now on my kitchen table, but you can still see that, you know, you're gonna be able to see the difference. With these, we do recommend that the iPhone and the sharing station, try to keep them within 15 feet of one another, no further out, right, for this connection to be successful. You know, one thing to be mindful is a lot of people are doing events outdoors. Outdoors seems to be a little problematic with some people because they're putting their sharing station to the side or a little bit further than what it's supposed to be. So please be mindful of how far you place them of one another, because if it is pretty far of one another, then you know you're going to be getting some drops and stuff like that. But always try to have your phone and your sharing station, you know, close to one another and go from there. Once your files are coming in, like in this case, the file had already came in. You can't really see it on the phone, but it's there, right? You were to click on the file, and this is the file currently. You can see the animated overlay, but I'm not going to try to let you guys see it that way. I want to let you guys download it. So go ahead and download it with your devices. That way you can see the true effects of the animated overlay and how beautiful it looks. You get the right designer to design these automated overlays. You get the right designer to give you a professional looking outro video, and your stuff is going to be on point, second to none. So definitely, you know, take advantage of what the software allows you to do and use it to its full potential. You know, I think it's a great way to showcase your skills, great way to showcase your clients' final production, and go from there. And for people that wanted to see real quick, I'm going to take it out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is my iPad mini, and this is the attract screen, right? This is what the attract screen is. I use it for the TouchPix shows typically. And, you know, it's just an attract screen. It attracts people. When people are not using your booth, this is where they come. And then when you're ready to use your booth, you just tap on the screen, and then it goes back to, you know, hitting the slow-mo button. But so you can see how it looks. I just wanted to be able to share that with you. And also, one last thing real quick is I'll do another session so you can see it's still connected. I haven't disconnected anything. I'm going to go ahead and hit slow-mo. You see the camera click in, and now it's recording. So you can see the camera 2, 1, and you can see, you know, you can see that the cable still kind of charges the battery of the GoPro. You do need a battery inside of it, but it's fine. These batteries are a little inexpensive as you move forward, you know, and it's just an awesome solution. Now that it's done recording, now it's doing its thing, combining files, everything is just so much quicker than it was before. Super happy with this new update and how, you know, how fast it's gonna be out there in real use. So now it's, you know, doing its effects, and it's using an animated overlay. It's adding music, it's adding the outro video. It's basically adding everything in a matter of seconds, where before it did take a little long just to get your final output. And this is kind of where we're at now. It's adding that, and there is the animated overlay. So it looks pretty damn cool. So with that being said, I don't know if you guys have any last minute questions. I can take a few, but other than that, I just wanted to be able to show and highlight, you know, some of these TouchPix features.
Yeah, but DJ, I got a question about the GoPro. I know I looked at how to do the wired session, but the battery, does the battery have to stay in the GoPro, or can you remove it once you plug in?
You know what? I've been testing it with the battery in. So I've heard, again, I haven't done enough testing. If you're using an iPhone to control your GoPro, the answer is use a battery inside your GoPro, right? If you're using an iPad mini or an iPad Pro to control that GoPro, I've heard that you can use it still without the battery, right? But the beauty is, the bigger the iPad, or like I went with the mini because the mini has a bigger battery, and it charges the battery of your GoPro while it's in there. So you're getting now, if you're using an iPad mini, you'll be able to use this charging pass through where you can plug it into a battery bank, right? So yeah, I mean, the answer is kind of not a definitive answer, but you can definitely use both.
Thank you.
2 more questions. Anybody have a question?
I have a question.
Sure.
Do you provide any guidance on how to create those animated overlays?
I'm not a designer, but what we can do, I mean, we have some people, we don't typically refer specific people, but you know, shoot me an email and I can definitely guide you to some people that may be able to help.
Okay.
I just know that they're done in the After Effects program. They need to be done in the After Effects program.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's like a program like you download it onto the computer.
Yeah, it's made by Adobe, just like Photoshop, except this has to do with motion graphics. So it's Adobe After Effects.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you.
No problem. One more question. Anybody have a question?
I do.
Yeah.
Okay, so your iPhone, if you're using it as a trigger, it charges the GoPro wired? Or
It charges the GoPro wire while it's at a standstill. Like right now it's at a standstill and you can see that it has a charging symbol, right? But when the GoPro kicks on to record, like I'm gonna hit record, you're gonna see that charging symbol turn off, right? Watch, it's gonna turn off right about now. You see it turn off because it's recording?
Yes.
And then once it stops recording, it goes back to charging mode. You see that?
Okay, I see. So then maybe it's best to just get an extra battery.
Yeah. So what I would recommend too is go to Amazon. Amazon sells, they sell them like in packs of 3 with the charger. So, you know, you shouldn't, don't rely on one battery, but go to Amazon, depending on the wired disclaimer only works for GoPro 10. It doesn't work for GoPro 9. So go to Amazon, get a, search for GoPro 10 batteries, pack of 3, and it comes with a charger and 3 separate batteries. And you can charge them all at once.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Okay, one more question and then we're done basically. Anybody have one last question? Nothing? Okay.
Question, sir. About those gallery, as like about like I told before that it's like I could not find anything from the gallery.
Oh yeah. Okay, let me cover that real quick and then I'll show you. Okay, so I'm going to show you this real quick. I'm going to go ahead and log off of that. So your gallery on TouchPix, right? Every time you're in TouchPix, every time you record something, if you installed, and again, this is a big disclaimer right here. If you install TouchPix correctly, right now in this gallery, I have only one video, correct? You can see this video that I have. Let me see, let me exit. Okay, let me go here. I only have one video in this gallery, correct? If you record and then you install TouchPix correctly, you will always be able to locate your video file in your camera roll. As a backup, TouchPix always allows for that video file to be located here on your camera roll, always. So in your situation, you said you cannot find it. I'm gonna suggest that maybe the app wasn't installed correctly. As you recall through my little seminar here, I explained how important it is to give it permissions for everything. If you accidentally said no permissions to camera roll, then that would be a big red flag. And I think that might be something that happened in your case. Because people do it so quick sometimes they don't realize. If you did click, you know, don't allow for camera roll saving, that means it's not going to save anything on your device because you denied it the opportunity to save anything. Does that make sense?
One of your customer service, one of your staff told me that's like maybe it's the connection.
It has nothing to do with the connection because TouchPix, to run TouchPix, you don't need any type of internet connection. It runs by itself. Furthermore, since you said that, if you have an active event, and you might not have looked here yet, every time you have an active event, TouchPix creates a folder If you go to your device, as I'm showing you here, and you click on that folder on the top left-hand side that says Files, right? You're going to see a folder in here under Files. Wait, let me go back. You're going to see, I'm going to go onto my iPhone. You're going to see a folder in here called TouchPix. You see that folder called TouchPix at the bottom? If you click on this folder, it's going to have multiple folders. One folder is going to have non-rendered files, meaning files in its original format without the overlay, the way it's originally being recorded by the software. A lot of people like to get these for marketing purposes, right? Or you can look into the gallery folder, which is going to have the gallery version, the rendered file. The part that you need to know about this is this TouchPix folder or these files will disappear once you close the event. Once the event is closed, you will no longer have access to these files, but you can always download them, right? You can download them different ways. You can connect it to a wire to download all that content to your computer, or you can come here over to TouchPix, right? If you come over to TouchPix, you can come here and go to where it says cloud storing. If you have a Google Drive account or a Dropbox account, you could potentially save those files into those cloud storages as well.
So there's no need of internet connection when we do this.
You don't need any internet connection. If you activated your event from a place with internet connection to run TouchPix, you don't need any type of internet connection.
Oh, because I was told it's like maybe it's better. It's like if you have a router or something.
No. Yeah, no, they probably misguided you on there. You don't need internet connection. You need internet connection to share your files if you're not using our built-in system, but that's a different story. But for this, you do not need any internet connection to run the app.
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna uninstall, but I did that before. I don't know what's happening really.
Yeah, and then also there are two galleries. There's the in-app gallery and there's the online gallery. If you check the online gallery and you didn't see any videos, or if someone tried to scan the QR code and it wasn't loading, that means that the videos haven't uploaded to the online gallery, and that is dependent upon your internet connection. However, if your videos weren't in your gallery, that's a host, your in-app gallery, that's a separate issue. So there's two galleries that we discuss during the webinars.
Correct. And as Tia explained, another cool way to look is here, that hamburger icon on the top left-hand side. You could click on it and you can hit Q, right? If you go over to where it says Q, you're going to see, you see up top here where it says web gallery and in-app gallery. Sometimes when you don't have internet connection, you might have 50 videos here and 0 here, meaning that nothing uploaded onto the web because there's no internet connection, right? So whatever files are here, they're going to be red. They turn green once there's internet connection and everything's uploading onto the web, right? But you can still share any of these files via AirDrop without internet. But for people that have Androids and they're using text message or email, they're just going to have to wait until you have an established internet connection.
Yeah, mine is Android, and then using the iPad.
Yeah, so that's probably something to look into. I mean, it's not a hard thing to do once you understand how it works, but at least this will better prepare you moving forward, understanding that, look, I need an internet connection. I need to know my internet speed. I need to know what the speeds are in order for it to work. If you have low speeds or no internet, you're gonna struggle with sharing, and AirDrop might be your best angle for your iPhone users. For your people with Androids, you can still use text message. They're not going to get the files right away. They'll get the files whenever you go home, and you hit Q, like I just did here. So you go home, you open up the hamburger button, you hit Q, and you can actually, you see where it says send out Q, send out SMS. that means that you can send them all out because everything's still saved, it's stored. People, when they punch in their phone numbers, it gets saved in that order. So when you have good internet, you can actually send them all out afterwards.
Okay.
All right. Okay, we're going to end today's webinar. I'd like to thank everybody. I know this was a little bit of a long webinar, but I hope everything got addressed and everything got handled to your expectations. We thank you for just kind of hanging with Tia and I. If there's any questions, reach our support team and give us a call if you're running into any issues. We're here for you. We want to enhance your events. We want to make you better at what you do, and we want to make you money. So at the end of the day, you taking the 2 hours out of your life to learn the necessary skills to better produce your output, I think that speaks volumes. So thank you. Thank you for hanging with us. Again, if you need to jump in another webinar, we're here every Wednesday. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Hold on. Could you send us the email, your email address about the overlay designers? Who could do it, you told us.
Oh, sure. If you want to email me directly, go ahead and I can answer that. I'm going to put it in the chat. It's dj1@touchpix.com, and I can let you know who I've used, and then you can explore whatever options works for you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
DJ, I just can I ask you one real quick question?
What's up, man?
Hey, when you doing the sharing station, do I have to use two barcodes still, or can I still use the one
Just one.
with the TouchPix?
Yeah, with just one. Correct.
So will I do the first one when I go into the tablet to make it the share station? I just scan that one and hit share, right?
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
So the biggest takeaway too with today's session would be this too. The biggest takeaway now is, if you guys recall, when you were using a GoPro before, you had no access to use your Wi-Fi. Now, because you have a wired connection, you are able to use the Wi-Fi on that device. It's available for you to use. You don't really need now a separate sharing station unless that's what you want to do, but it gives you more options to share that way because your iPhone or your tablet Wi-Fi is not tied to the GoPro. You can connect to another internet network so you can share. So I think that's the biggest takeaway with this wired solution as well. All right, everybody, have a great night, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you, Tia.
Have a good one.
All right.